but my first performance post-COVID was when I taped Penn and Teller's Fool Us in Vegas. I probably look a little more badass on my Instagram. And think about everything you put on the internet because it doesn't go away. 5 years from now, you're going to regret everything you posted. Like, it's just how it is. Yeah, that works. You guys want to find me? Find me on cassette. Be a real fan. I love coffee.
It's
I love
amazing.
coffee.
I know. We don't thank coffee enough for all the things it does for us.
Influencer Insight shares the battles, stories, success of the models, influencers, and entrepreneurs as they find the balance of being influential leaders today while creating long-lasting impact for the future.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another session of Influencer Insights, where I have Gabriella Lester from Vancouver joining me tonight. She is...
Hey, thanks so much.
Yeah, an influencer. I'm calling it that. As far as I'm concerned, she takes some model-esque photos, and so she's not sure she's quite there yet, but she does a great job at that as well. And she loves motocross, and she does magic. So she's kind of all over the spectrum with a lot of different interests and things going on. She's got a great following on Instagram. So I felt when I ran across her profile, she was somebody that we needed to have on the show to share her story a little bit today. So welcome, Gabriella.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Glad to have you on tonight. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we get going. What else should we know about you before we get started?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 19. I'm originally from South Africa, but I grew up mostly in Vancouver and around Vancouver, so I call Canada home. My main focus is magic, but I have a passion for about a million other things, which is probably what you saw an accumulation of on my Instagram.
For sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't call myself a model, but I've definitely had a passion and have kind of dived. Let's not talk about my English skills. I've kind of took a step into that world a little bit over the past few years.
Good for you. Well, I think you can let the people listening be the judge of the modeling thing or not. Go check out Gabriella's Instagram.
You all let me know what you think.
Good. So South Africa, did your parents move up here when you were small, or how did that part go for you?
Yeah, so my whole family is from out there, like parents, grandparents, cousins. But when my brother and I were born, my parents kind of wanted to give us the opportunity to have, a successful life and the safety that we have here in Canada. Yes. So they moved when we were pretty young.
Right on. Cool. So you went to school in Vancouver and you've done the whole thing out there. So, okay. How did you get into doing the magic thing? Because you say that's kind of the main thing you've been focused on. Yeah.
Well, for me, that's kind of felt like the thing I was always meant to do. I had a lot of encounters as a kid with performers and magic in some sense. It just felt like this is the one passion that kept drawing me back. And once I started doing it and doing shows, there was nothing else that gave me the same feeling.
Where did you start that? Was that just like, as a kid you were playing with magic, or did you watch a show, or did you just...
Yeah, so I mean, when I first started learning, it was card tricks, and I'd see magicians, and then I fell in love with doing different effects. And one of the teachers in my middle school was actually a magician, so he kind of helped me out there, and he got me on stage for the first time, and he's like, "We have an assembly, perform. We have a talent show, perform." So I started getting on stage, and haven't left since.
And you were about how old then?
12.
12. Okay, so you've been at this 6, 7, 8 years, so right on. Very cool. What's the first card trick that you learned?
Oh. My brother taught me a card trick, I think, when I was like 7, and it was somebody picks a card and then like you spell out what the card is and then it's theirs. I'm still my dad's favorite trick. I could do everything in the world, and he's like, do this spelling one. So it's lasted me very long.
Hey, sometimes those, foundational pieces are the key thing to everything, right? So, So do you just do shows in Vancouver now, or are you able to travel some doing some of that, or?
I'm traveling a fair bit now, so a little bit of everywhere, a lot in the US, and starting to branch out now to Europe and the UK.
Oh, okay, right on. Is Europe as far as you've been so far, or is it?
Yeah, I'd say the UK probably.
Okay. What's been kind of one of the coolest places you've gotten to go so far?
Perform? Well, there's actually a venue in Hollywood called the Magic Castle, and that for me has been the coolest venue because in the magic world, that's like kind of the hardest place to get into as a performer, and because I was able to do it so young, and it was this big like little kid dream of me for me, that the fact that I got to do it when I did that's still really special to me.
Very cool. So did you have to like...
Hey models, thanks for tuning in today. Hope that you're enjoying the episode. It's Ben here. I just wanted to invite you to the Influencer and Model Support Group on Facebook, where we've got a great growing community of people looking to help support, share tips and tricks on how to grow, become and develop as a model. So go on Facebook, type in the search influencer and model support group, and you'll find us. Click join, you'll be added in, and you're going to find a great community of people to support you in your journey.
Practice for like weeks and weeks and weeks to hit that, or did you just walk in there and all confident like Gabriella goes?
Not necessarily. It's more of like someone to know someone to vet for you. Then they kind of see you. Then it was just a lot of like really worked for but lucky opportunities.
Right. Building those connections all the way along, right? So
yeah.
Do you have an agent, or how do you book shows across the world like that? Is that?
I'm self-managed, so I'm doing it all on my own right now, but I definitely have a lot of help from mentors and peers in my life. I'm asking a lot of questions.
Yeah, and that's the best place to start, right? So how do you find a group of people that are magicians? Is that, never even thought about that, but I guess there would be, right? So
we all know each other. You sign a contract when you start, and you all meet in the same basement. It's yeah. And the magic community is actually fairly tight knit. So wherever you go in the world, if you put it out there that you're coming, or you kind of know someone that knows someone, they say like in magic, you're 2 or 3 degrees of separation from literally anyone in the industry. So it's pretty easy. It's a unique enough passion that you get along well with pretty much most people that do it.
Well, everybody. Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I know there's a lot of industries like that, but it's a fairly, coming from an outsider perspective, it seems quite secretive the way a lot of magicians work and stuff like that. And it makes sense that they're also tight knit, that you guys kind of keep the secrets of the hand together. So that's awesome. What's some big dreams for where do you want to go with this thing?
I want to keep, performing and doing shows all over the world because I love it and I want to take it to different places. Nonprofit work is kind of the area that I'm most passionate about, being able to do something that's a little larger. But yeah, I have a million goals and I keep setting them and trying to reach further and further. So I want absolutely everything, but one step at a time.
Yeah, for sure. Book the calendar full and see where it goes. So
yeah.
So if somebody else wanted to get started doing magic, do you have some kind of tips up front for them and that kind of thing? Or?
Yeah, I think for something like magic, the best way to learn is in person. Like it's kind of one of those hobbies that's passed down from generation to generation. So I think, the most valuable way is in person to learn from one another. So see who's local in your area, ask them as many questions as possible, but try new things, everything. Try stage, try close up, you don't know what you're going to love. And especially if you're starting young, your interests and your likes are going to change as you grow. So be okay with trying a lot of different areas of something.
Do you have a favorite on stage or up close, or do you?
Right now, I really like stage shows, but I like it the most when I can see everyone in the audience. I love being able to see my audience. So I'm happy with a parlor-sized room or 2 people or 200 people. I want to perform.
Cool. You like the tighter, intimate settings and that sort of thing? Or?
Yeah. I like being able to connect with everyone in the room, which is hard when there's lots.
Do you ever get to perform with other magicians as well, or is that something that you do? Or
yeah, so I mean, out here we do a show like when I'm home, and the show's called Cabaret Wonders, and that's kind of a rotating roster of performers. So that's with a bunch of magicians in it. It's me and then the other local guys, and that's kind of fun. And when you work some of these magic venues, you'd call them like the Magic Castle, you're working with a bunch of other amazing performers with different styles. And for me, a lot of these people are ones that I looked up to forever, and we're sharing the same stage. This is pretty cool.
How many shows are you booking? You do a couple a week right now, or is it?
Yeah, it depends. So there's some weeks where it's like the other week I had a 30 show week, and the other week you have none. It really just depends on
week. How do you manage to do that?
So you do 6 show days. You don't eat very often, and you just wait for the end of the week. You just rely on your adrenaline and admiration from the audience. But yeah, so some weeks are just more packed than others, just kind of depending on schedule. Right now, I'm just taking a bit of a break.
Yeah, for sure. You need to sleep for 3 days after that, I'm sure. So yeah. What about your family? What do they think? Are they your dad obviously likes your tricks, but is that something that everybody's rooting for you all the time and they're trying to
Yeah, my parents and family are super supportive, and as to how or why they are, I have no idea. I had so many passions as a kid, and I do now. So the fact that they believed me when I said I chose this one is just that was wonderful for me. They've stood behind every decision I made. they're both like very business oriented, straightforward people. So the fact that they're standing behind this crazy, unique artistic world and going, "You go for it, kid," has been great. So they've been amazing.
Well, that's probably good because one of the biggest challenges I think I've seen in artists overall, and it's not an offensive thing, it's just the reality of it, that generally they're very good at the creation piece, but the business stuff they suck at. So probably having their advice and support and backing, that makes it a huge difference, right? Because then you can kind of know where to take it. So
I'm gonna ask the questions too.
Yeah, for sure. What's some of the best advice they've given you?
Probably teaching me how to do laundry or how to cook. I think that's like the most important when you're in some obscure city and you're doing shows and you're in this like random apartment and you're like, I need to like figure out how to make a meal for myself and live as an adult. And I started that earlier than most people do because I started traveling when I was so young that I'm like, I'm just glad that I had the ability to make an egg in the morning.
You're not stuck with Kraft dinner and Cheetos all the time either, right? So
yeah. Whether I choose to have Kraft dinner and Cheetos some night is a personal thing, but
at least it's your choice.
Yeah.
Cool.
I could cook a steak if I wanted to.
That's the important part, right? Yeah. Some people either burn it or they don't cook it enough, and that's just either side is so good. So, how did school go for you? If you started traveling young, were you able to just fit it all in, or did you?
Yeah, I finished high school when I was 16 because I had the intention of wanting to do this full time and have it take over my life. So I finished like the last little bit of high school in one, and I was just performing and practicing throughout all of that until I could not wait to get out of those doors.
Yeah. So. Let me go. So that's a good inspiration for a lot of people. If you see a passion in your life that you really want to pursue, getting the stuff you need to do out of the way is probably better than dragging it out longer than you have to anyway. Right? So
that was definitely out of being driven, not being super intelligent or super anything. That was out of passion of wanting to do something.
That's amazing. Awesome. Good for you. You mentioned a lot about, you said it a few times, how you've got lots of passions in life. I totally relate to that. The podcast isn't the first thing I've spent my focus time on, but what are some of the other passions that you like to do in between doing the magic thing? What do you do to relax?
Yeah, I mean, I say motorsports is probably my biggest other passion, and I talk about this one a lot, and that's because there's so many elements of it that I'm a beginner at. Like I've been working on doing different service projects and restoring engines, and that for me, it's like every time I touch that, I feel like I'm a complete beginner and I know nothing, which is great because for me, I get to relax or sit in my garage or sit in a forest somewhere and ride or learn and that's also a really cool bonding thing for my dad because he's super into that. So it's my home away from home.
Cool.
At home, I guess.
So you've probably been on a bike since you were knee high to a grasshopper kind of thing.
Not actually. I only started riding a few years ago, kind of when COVID started, and I was just at home all the time. I'm like, Dad, we need help. And we got bikes, and I worked in a motorsports dealership throughout COVID, and I really fell in love with it and learned how they all worked and the ins and outs and a million other things I still don't know yet, and it just became a big part of my life.
Very cool. Hey, that's a good way to get into it too, right? You learn a lot by just being in the business, right? So
yeah, as to why I got hired, I don't know, but it worked for me.
So you did that.
How to turn this thing on?
You just kind of know how to stand there with it a little bit, see where it goes.
Yeah. I think the first few weeks of that job, I was like polishing the bikes, but every day it was like I spent so much time in the shop during that job because I just wanted to learn so much. I fell in love with it really quickly. And I remember like they'd go to the desk, go to the front, they'd be like, "Where's Gabriella? She's in the shop again." Because I'd spend the whole day like on a stool being like, "What does that do? How does that work with that? And what do you plug that into? Can I touch it? Can I try it?" And they're like, "Just go do your job."
Yeah. So you know how to take the engine apart and pull the piston and put a spark plug in it and stuff now?
Very poorly.
Very poorly. But well, you could do it though. Good for you. That's awesome.
Guess.
Yeah. How I'm just trying to imagine a motocross dealer in Vancouver. How does that work? Is it in the city or is it outside the city or? Yeah,
well, I live about like an hour out of downtown, so it's kind of in a suburb that it works. Okay. And they sold everything. They sold bikes, side-by-sides, 4x4s, all that kind of stuff.
Right. They're probably super busy through COVID with people being locked up and wanting to get outside, right?
Oh, yeah, it was crazy. And we were one of the only businesses that was open because we were still an essential service. So
Right.
That kept me sane, I think, because I was working full time. I had a place to go every day. I had something to learn, and that's kind of my little safe haven. It was.
Yep, for sure. So
Yeah.
you're 19 now. You would have been
Yeah.
15, 16 when COVID started?
Yeah, that was 16, 17.
Wow, that's
So I
crazy.
finished school and then was working. So
To the dealership. So now that I'm thinking about that, how was that whole experience for you? Because for me, it was like, I mean, I was basically 30 when COVID kind of started. So it wasn't like, I mean, I was like surprised at the world, but it wasn't like kind of seeing some things in the world go on. But I mean, when you're 16, that's a kind of a shock to the system, right? To see the world go down, or did it feel normal in some ways, or?
yeah, I feel like I mean, we all had different experiences, but mine was somewhat okay because I had a routine. I had a schedule to go to every day. I was hanging out with people I loved. I was learning something. I was working. I had an income. Like I
Right.
missed performing, of course, but I was still at a stage in my life where I was navigating kind of what I wanted, and that gave me a space to explore. Honestly, it was like for me, I wanted those teen years gone. Like I wanted to get out in the world and start doing my thing. So for me, I was like 16, 17, just make an income and get back out and go do what I love. So I wasn't like bummed I couldn't go out and party or be young and stupid. Like I was okay with working.
It's kind of a nice thing about have a passion and a vision, right? You kind of know where you're going regardless of what's going on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
do you find your friends through that period? Like, I'm guessing not very many people are driven as like yourself, but is that a challenge to talk with people because they want to talk about each other and do stupid things, and you're thinking about the future and how that goes? Or no
Yeah,
offense to
I
any of
think
them ahead of time,
that
but
sorry guys. That was probably like that area of my life was probably a bigger disconnect because I was finishing school at the same time I started working when COVID happened. So that kind of ended, and then my life transitioned to adulthood like really much that second. Like
instantly.
I was traveling, I was working, I was doing that stuff, and then COVID ended. And then in reconnecting with those friends, it was like they were all still like no disrespect to any of them because they're all still young and by all means take as much time to figure out what you want to do. But I had gone back to them and they were
Hmm.
all still doing the same stuff we
Right.
were doing before COVID. They were going to the same places at night. They were hanging out, doing the same street races, going to the same bars, doing the same, and none of them had like any projected goals. But for me, in that time, I made a new group of people that were all driven and passionate and were working towards stuff. So I kind of came out with it with the better, circle of people that cared about building a future.
And that's, yeah, again, it's nothing against anybody. We all just hit different roads, and sometimes our roads
Yeah.
separate for a while and come back together too, right after time too. So
Yeah.
that's
Be as
pretty cool.
stupid as you want. I'm not joining.
That's right. Yeah,
Maybe on Tuesday. Maybe on Tuesday.
maybe on Tuesday. Yeah,
Yeah.
only for an hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember when COVID hit? Like, were you on the road traveling then, or because I think it was March 2020 when things kind of went like instantly shut down?
I think I had just gotten the job at the dealership when that had happened. So it was a pretty like seamless transition at that point. Like I was waiting to finish school so I could start performing. And
Right.
I was driving one day and saw the job listing. Then I got the job and I started working there while doing school. And then COVID happened. And for me, I was like, okay, I already have a place to go. And I was kind of okay.
So it didn't hit that
Yeah.
that hard for you, anyways. That's kind of nice because, yeah, people in the working world that have been there for a while, I think it was kind of more of a shock than to all of us anyway, because we're
Yeah. Yeah.
what happened, but
If anything, I think it helped me fall in love with magic and performing more
okay.
because it was so much of my childhood that I think if it had taken up all of my teen years and it was my only hobby that I would have, had, I think, some remorse to not explore other things. But the fact that I got to go out and live this 9 to 5 life for so long, I could go, okay, I know that's not what I want. It was great,
Sure.
but I want this thing. And I really,
Sure.
knew that and could
Yeah.
solidify that.
There's a difference with, the seasons of life versus your life as a whole too, right? So what you got to do in
Yeah.
the meantime. How did you get back, like when shows COVID started to come out of that, how did you transition? Were you able to do, say some people are meeting online and doing stuff via Zoom and stuff like that, but that's probably not the same for Magic, right?
Yeah, well, actually, plenty of them were doing Zoom shows. I did not jump on that bandwagon. I'm
Okay.
like, let me know when the crowd is back. But my first performance post COVID was when I taped Penn and Teller's Fool Us in Vegas. So it was like no performances for years. And then I was on stage in Vegas filming my first national TV appearance. I'm like, cool, this is a lot.
Wow, that's kind of a big back to the world kind of moment, eh?
Yeah, definitely.
Which hotel is that at? Where was the studio?
That's at the Rio in the Penn and Teller Theater.
Cool. Been there. That's very cool. Yeah, that's a great show to watch too if anybody's down in Vegas, right? So is that something that people can catch online to see where your show is?
Yeah, that's on YouTube. So if you look that up, you'll find the video pretty quickly.
Very cool. No, that's very impressive. So making waves right out of the gate back into the world, right? So
I think that shake for me was really important because I think I got really comfortable with the 9 to 5. I'm like, oh, and the difference is like with magic, I'm so passionate about it that I care about all my failures. I want to do everything right. I always want to get things right. But with motorsports, I'm like, I don't care if I screw up or get things wrong. Like it was just so much easier to live that life. I'm like, I've got 9 to 5, a stable income. I always know I'm working. I've got this really simple job. And for me, I like was almost getting so comfortable that I didn't want to leave and stay there. And the fact that I had this performance right out of COVID was like, wake the heck up, kid. Like you love this and you need to get back to it. And that's why for me, I always feel like I was meant to do it.
Push and go, right? Because that's a good reminder too. I think people, everywhere we get kind of stuck in those comfort zones, and it's fine. Like you say, you do what you do for a season sometimes, but it's about pushing forward and hitting the next level of development for yourself, wherever that is, right? So
definitely.
What's something that, people don't, whether you're on the stage for magic or Instagram, going viral, what are some things that people maybe don't know about Gabriella?
I feel like I talk about all my weird things more often. Like I have major stage fright. I get super nervous all the time.
Major stage fright. How do you combat that?
I don't know if I would necessarily call it stage fright. I get a lot of nerves and like when I was talking about the like really loving it because I care so much about it, is I'll be like 200 shows into the year and still be like feeling like I'm going to throw up, pass out backstage because I just really, really want to do well. Yes. And that gets easier sometimes, but I still like I care about every show.
Has the stage fright shifted from, okay, I'm standing in front of like 3,000 people to just wanting to do a good job, or was it always just about performing?
I think it was never about like the public speaking or being in front of other people. Like for me, it wasn't. That's how maybe stage fright's the wrong word, because it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I have to be in front of a group of people. It was, oh my gosh, I'm going out there as me doing this thing that I love and I really want to do well. And for me in performing, it's like, I'm not a character. I'm not this other, I'm just a bigger version of myself. I look at who I am as a person, and that changes all the time, and figure out how to translate that and put it on stage. So they're not seeing a character. It's not a play. It's not an act. They're seeing literally me with this vulnerable thing that I love so much. And I'm just hoping to get the response that, I want as a performer, which is a very vulnerable thing to do, but we still do it.
Yes, of course. And it's that developing thing, right? Where every time you push through it. And I've talked to other people in the entertainment industry who've done it for years, and they still say, there's just shaking sometimes that goes on, but similar to what you're talking about, it's not really a fear of being in front of people anymore. It's about just doing your best and making sure you're giving it your all, right? So,
yeah.
Do you mind if I ask if you've ever had any, I don't know if I want to call it a failure, but, goof up on stage and stuff like that? Is that stuff that you've experienced, or?
The most recent one, I think I was doing a show on New Year's and I was doing the upside down straight jacket. And like when I was wiggling around, because that just seems to be how it works, my like the zipper on my pants like ripped and I was upside down. And it's all like choreographed in time to music, and you're upside down trying to get out of the straight jacket. I'm like, okay, is the move to get the pants back on first or get out of the straight jacket? Because like, right. So we got out of the straight jacket first, and I just remember getting backstage after that show and everyone was just laughing their asses off at me, like trying to get my pants on and out of the jacket and make it look like it's like a part of the performance. Like, oh yeah, I meant to wriggle like this, my hands just go there. So that was probably one of the weirdest ones where, but they didn't notice. Maybe they did. I feel like I'm being kind to myself. They definitely noticed.
It's not the whatever happened, it's more the recovery that matters, right? So
but now I do it every show.
Right. Yeah. you know how, right? Like it's kind of the best, right? So
Yeah.
do you ever get negative feedback and stuff like that, and how do you handle that?
I wouldn't necessarily call it negative. I would say there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen when you're an up and coming performer trying to do something, and
Yes.
everyone kind of wants to steer you in different directions.
People
And
don't have
that's been
opinions, do they?
apparently none at all. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, so that's just, figuring out what to take, what to walk away with, being gracious, accepting all of it, and then but still figuring out on your own.
Yeah,
But you get plenty of it. Everyone walks out of the room shaking your hand and giving you a piece of feedback, especially in the magic world, because they've all been doing it 30 years more than you, and
right.
some of them have the best advice in the world, and some of them have absolute shit.
Yeah.
And how to navigate that?
Thank you. See ya.
Walk away. Walk away.
Well, that's pretty good. That must be a bit of a natural ability for you, or maybe something your parents have taught you and that kind of thing. Because I think everybody, if you're going to be in front of people, if you're going to influence people, it's going to get feedback. It's just how you take it and how you absorb it, and that's
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm okay with making the wrong choice. Like for me,
cool.
I'm like okay with fucking up and making a mistake. Like
Yeah,
I work really hard not to, but I'm okay with the fact that it's like if I don't take a piece of advice or I trust my gut and go in a direction, that direction's wrong. I can forgive myself and be like, you thought it was right, you trusted your gut, and it was just not the right direction. But look, here's the rest of your life, and 5 years from now, it's not going to matter. So just keep pushing forward.
that's
Listen
right.
to that guy next time, though.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's a good way to look at it too, because our pain really expands time, where pleasure usually shrinks time, right? That's kind of one thing that I've always stuck with, and if you get
Yes.
to a moment where something sucked or you had poor criticism, it's going to feel like a really big part of your life when it's really only one night,
Mm-hmm.
right? Versus Gabriella 5 years down the road is not going to remember that moment at all if you've people
Yeah.
pushing forward, right? So,
Yeah, let's hope.
oh
Not
yeah,
sitting in the corner of the room. Remember that one show in 2018? You suck ass.
fetal position, rocking back and forth. Eh? I think
Uh-huh.
that's.
Yeah, I have nights like that.
Well, hopefully they only last for one night or two anyway, so it doesn't
Yeah,
pull
yeah,
yourself out
just
of it.
just a few minutes here and there every day.
Yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Hmm.
That's good. It's good. Other people looking to you seem to be fairly personally developed for a person that is 19. So my compliments to you. That's not something we see very often in our world today, especially. But what are some things that you do to kind of develop yourself in, whether it's confidence or staying positive or looking at the bright side? You seem to have a lot of tips and thoughts going on behind the
Yeah, I
picture that you
mean,
put on.
so
So
yeah, thank you. I try really hard to just be positive as much as possible, and I think attitude is a huge chunk of like the mental and physical health that you're gonna feel. So it's like
mm-hmm.
in the same sense that you can take those bad moments and expand them and make them so long for you. I mean, I'll take like the littlest thing, like I'll have a good tasting coffee and it'll make my day. Like you just let those little things expand as much as possible and keep a positive attitude and let the little wins be huge wins and let the
Yeah,
huge wins be enormous wins and take everything as it comes and don't worry about things unless you have to worry about them. But
sure.
yeah, keep learning and pushing through and go easy on yourself. We're all
That's
just kids.
We are. It doesn't matter how old you get. You
Yeah.
jump off something I shouldn't have jumped off, or I would have jumped off when I was 15, and it hurts a lot more 15 years further down the road, just saying, but you still feel like you've got that invincibility in you forever. So
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. Do you have rituals? Some people meditate, some people have vision boards, some people write stuff down in journaling. What are some of your tactics that way to keep positive and look
Yeah.
forward?
I probably fitness. Like I work out pretty much every day, and that's trying something I try to keep in my schedule when I'm traveling to have some
Sure.
structure of a routine.
How
And
does
that
that
for me
go?
isn't like it's complicated. It's sometimes just doing some element of fitness in an airport or in a hotel gym or wherever I am, or when I'm home I have more of a routine.
Right.
But for me it's just like something to feel healthy, but it's never been like I want to have a perfect body or be skinny. It's like I want to be strong, I want to be healthy and keep like a solid reachable goal for my health.
That's a good outlook on it. Do you combine that with some, I don't know, dieting is always not the word, but nutrition and that kind of thing as well? That you're
Yeah. I mean, when I'm home, my schedule is like the most solid. Like I work out, 5 a.m. mornings. I work out. I eat really healthy. When I'm traveling, I'm a little bit more lenient because you're all over the world. You're in these unique places, and
Jet lag.
you know your quality of life is going to be lessened if you calorie count everything you have. I'm like, I fucking love cake. If I had to
Yeah.
live my life without cake, I'd be a miserable
What
human
is the point?
being.
Eat the damn
So
cake.
yeah, my 80/20 ratio is like 80% healthy and 20% just cake. It's just that's it.
Is what it is. So that's a pretty good balance, I
Yeah.
think. People
Yeah, I'll
that's
release a cookbook soon.
oh, well, that's exciting.
Yeah,
I think everybody'd like to see that. The Magician's Guide to Traveling the World for food. So
salads and baked goods is the way to go.
carbs and grass, eh? That's perfect. So yeah,
Right?
yeah. Um, I'm a little curious now that you mentioned that. When you're traveling, do you Airbnb it, or how do you manage to? How does it work when you're traveling to stay places?
Yeah, so a large chunk of the venues that I work will give you like an apartment or a hotel or something to stay in. So you almost always have accommodation. I prefer when I'm in a place for longer because it almost feels like you've lived there a little bit. Like
Right.
you've got an apartment, you kind of go to your
Yeah.
same coffee shop every morning. Like I try to pick a routine pretty quickly
Yeah.
when I go to a place, so I just feel more like relaxed. So they usually take care of that. But if I'm only in a place for a short amount of time or only have like a one night thing, I'll try and stay there for longer and get an Airbnb or something just so I don't lose my mind.
Right.
And, you know, I want to explore and enjoy it too. Like I do this because I'm passionate about it. So I try and keep those little things,
Well, sure. And
you know, longer.
if you have to get on a plane to get anywhere, you might as well take a moment and enjoy the scenery as well,
Might
right?
as
So
well. A
yeah,
vacation and a business retreat are the same thing.
100% right off, right?
Write everything off. Yeah.
Yeah. Big dreams for the next few years. What are your plans? Expanding the magic a little bit, more dirt biking,
Yeah, I
anything
mean,
else?
Magic's the center focus. I mean, building myself as a brand, and you know, the conversations I've been having lately is like, how do I make me a brand and Magic the thing that I do? Like, it's just a subsidiary instead of being a magician who is me, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I think, in this industry, it's less common to have a performer who themselves is a public figure and a brand, and Magic's just the thing that they do, and you know how to get the public to care about you as a person. So you know, I want to have a TV show and I want to join casted shows. Like there's shows like Illusionists and such that I'd want to be a part of and, you know, make some bigger waves.
Sure. Have you learned any tips and trick on the personal branding side to this point already? What are some things that you found about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same as like being on stages, trying to figure out how to be authentic. Like you look at my Instagram and you kind of talk to me, it's pretty similar. I mean, I probably look a little more badass on my Instagram, maybe a little more put together, but it's
They're
you're
pretty
putting like a
badass.
solid version of yourself out there and think about everything you put on the internet because it doesn't go away and you want to, you know, have that represent who you are as a person and as a brand. And, you know, you won't always get it right. 5 years from now, you're going to regret everything you posted. Like it's just how it is. But I keep my image as clean as possible and I try and make it about the talent, you know, not about being hot or attractive. I don't want followers for that. Like, acknowledge it and understand that appearance is a factor, but it's not the main thing, and make people care about you and what you love and just be authentic or
Sure.
try. I should post more food.
We'd all like that probably. So, and coffee. Talk about the
Yeah.
coffee.
I love coffee.
It's
I love
amazing.
coffee.
I know.
Yeah.
We don't thank coffee enough for all the things it does for us.
Seriously, I have no other, I don't drink, I don't smoke, nothing. So it's like if I didn't have coffee and cake, I wouldn't survive as a human being. Like I would
There's
be in the corner crying for the rest of my life without these wonderful things.
yes,
Yeah.
I feel that deep. I feel that deep, Gabriella.
Yeah. My biography.
Yeah. Coffee and Gabby, that's the way it goes, eh? So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
good. No, those are important things. It's that's a good reminder too. We've talked about your ambitions and the things that you do, but we're all human at the end of the day. And if you're not enjoying a little bit of life, what are you really accomplishing with what you do, right? So
Yeah. Healthy, balanced everything.
absolutely. What are some ways that people can get a hold of you and support you and get out to your shows and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, social media is the best way, or like my website is pretty updated regularly. So follow me online, write me a message. I like talking to people. So, you know,
Sure.
you can stay in touch, hit me up. But that's where everything is really. Just don't come to my house. That's a little weird. Everything but that, we're good.
Yes, those are some boundaries that probably need to be set in place for many, many people out in the world, but fair enough. So we all know that Gabriella's on a path here, so you're going to have a ton of followers very, very quickly on Instagram and TikTok and whatever else in the world that you're on. What are some messages, if that blew up overnight, what are some things that you really want people to know about you and about your world and about things that you've experienced?
I want people to be okay with doing things that they love and figuring out how to navigate that, and to being putting out a real version of themselves. And social media is the hardest. It's such a draining thing. Like, it's really, really hard, because, you know, you're putting yourself out there all the time, wanting people to like it, not knowing what they're going to like. And it's just another extension of yourself. You know, your brand online, you know, as much as it matters and doesn't matter at the same time, is it. And all that shit weighs on you, because it's not real. Like, even if my Instagram was 100% authentic, it's of who I am as a person. It's not real. It's good lighting, a perfect picture, a perfect moment in a show. It's curated comments and content. So no matter how good I look online, I don't look like that in real life. I'm not that person. You know, I'm never that image. But if that's the answer you're looking for, it's like, I am more fucked up than that chick, is the point.
I'm going to ask a bonus of the one. What does authenticity mean to you?
It means spending a lot of time with yourself, alone, asking yourself the important questions, working through the things that you've worked through 1,000 times to be okay with them, and figuring out what your values really are, who you are as a core, you know, what matters to you, what doesn't matter, what makes you feel like a good human being, how do you work to do that more often, and how do you share the good and the bad parts of you with the rest of the world.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Do you have a set of values that you dispute or you've written down, or?
I mean, for me, I just be patient and be kind with everybody. I think we forget, I do all the time, that every single person that you meet in the world, that you drive past, that you see in a shop window, these are all individual people with lives of their own, and so many stories. And as much as you have your own problems that you feel like no one else in the world knows about, they all have their own too. And you never have any clue. Like, even if you think you have a friend, you have no idea what other people are going through. So just be kind, overly kind, hold the door open for everyone, care about everyone's day, care about a stranger's day. Like, just be genuine and give your time to other people, and remember, you're not the most important person on the planet, no matter if it feels like it.
Yeah. Even if you're a world-class musician.
This is probably the wisest I've ever sounded. Yeah, it's where I'm going to make fun of a stranger and it's going to go back on everything.
Backfire. Very, very wise words, though, and I think the world is really lacking a lot of that authenticity and that understanding of one another, because, you know, you can put all the labels or whatever you want on everything, but if you don't understand RESPECT, you don't get very far, right? So very cool.
You just spit in some bars there for a second there.
You betcha, absolutely. So I'm from that era, just saying. So
all the pictures were black and white.
Honestly, yeah, you know, we had to use the pencil to get the cassette tape wheeled up and stuff, right? So I mean, yeah.
Cassette tape?
Yeah.
Pencil? What are these things?
It's what you probably use for magic tricks now or whatever. So yeah, can do some pretty cool things. I'll show you sometime.
Yeah, that works. You guys want to find me? Find me on cassette. Be a real fan.
The real
How do I put my show on that?
You should. Honestly, it's going to make a comeback. I know it will. So
yeah,
when you're thinking about it,
they're going to be vintage soon. I got a record player. Cassettes are next. Yeah. We're fine. It's going to be 100%. A trend real fast.
Yep. Post it on TikTok once, it'll go viral. You'll be scared. Super famous overnight. So
you're so smart.
I know. Unbelievable. But anyway, well, thank you for joining us tonight, Gabriella. I appreciate that, and we love hearing your story. I look forward to watching you just blow up over time. I think you're up on a really good path, so keep that up. So
thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
You bet.
Hey there, really appreciate you joining the Influencer Insights podcast today. If you've enjoyed this episode, I just would ask that you share it with a friend and give the video a like or the podcast a rating, whether you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite other player anywhere else. That really helps us share the message and grow this community as well. So thanks for that. Take care. Have a great day.